done with all of your sort of playing around with your project and you think you're ready to export it out, then this video will walk you through some of the steps for how to do that. So the most important thing I was try to recommend is that you keep in mind that Adobe is basically giving you a rendering or a representation of the things you've told it to do here in the multi-track editor, right? So you've got all the stuff and it's got, you're telling it what to do, and Adobe's gonna, when you push play, it's playing it back for you as best it can, depending on the RAM that you have and the CPU you have. But let's say you have 50 tracks in there with a ton of effects added and a whole bunch of high processor requirement kind of things that you're asking the computer to do. You might get like a clipped or slowed down or just kind of messed up rendering representation, real-time representation. So the only way to really know what's happening is to go ahead and export out your file. I often kind of relate this to the idea of baking a cake. Like, you got to bake that cake, cook it, bake it, see what happens when it pops out of the oven. I always recommend that everyone does this early on, like as a draft, just to sort of see what's actually happening, listen to it with some headphones even before you think you're done, so you can go back in and really tweak things and make them really, really good. That's part of the craft of what we're after here. And as I would scroll through this, I would probably notice there's a bunch of places where I've got peaking, right? Or I've got these red bars down here, that are popping up for those spots that are going to be a problem, right? So I would probably need to go in there and try and fix that before I rendered it. So it's just up to you to kind of look at your sort of overall project and try and get it the way you want it to be. Once you're ready, once you have it all done, you want to make sure that you don't have any of your tracks like soloed or muted or anything like that. You want to make sure everything is ready. You can now go ahead and go to exporting it. So you go up here to go file export up here at the spot, and you want to go ahead and go down here to this one that says export with Adobe Media Encoder. So you're going to get that. You're going to get a little like piece of, it's going to start up a new piece of software, right? So hopefully you have that downloaded and everything. But you want to go before, still in Adobe Audition, you're going to want to name it. So, test 2, whatever you want to call it. You want to tell it where you're going to put it. So we're going to click on the browse button. And I always tell everyone to go ahead and build out like a folder that has like rendered files, right? So that way you can keep those separated from the raw ones. These are the rendered ones that you're kind of testing everything out. So, and then where it says Adobe or file format, let's go ahead and like not pick ACC audio. Let's do an MP3. So these are all different file formats you can render things out for: audio, video, animation, all kinds of different things, right? So let's go ahead and choose the MP3 one. So you want to make sure you kick it out in a format that everybody else can kind of listen to, right? It's a really common one. And select where it is and click save. And then, there's a preset you can select here, like a whole bunch of different things. 128 is great, but if you want to go higher quality, you can. You want the entire session or just a certain part, you can choose that. But just click OK on it, and it's going to send that information now to this. So you can click OK, and it should show up in your Adobe Media Encoder, and it'll look like this. So you're going to have a little like thing that'll show up here, and it will have kicked out your project, so it'll have sent it where you told it to. And now if we go down to our desktop and into our thumb drive, let's see if it's there. There it is. So now if I open this, and it'll play for me, and it's playing like in whatever piece of software I have selected as my default audio player. I have that there. So I can sort of listen to it and see how it sounds. I know where it is. It's in my it's jump drive all the way buried in there, and I can get my hands on it. Easy to keep track of. And so that's how the basics of this will work. So you want to have Adobe Media Encoder open, and then you'll just send it from there. So then let's say I make some adjustments, I like sort of change the length of something and make a few changes. I can do it again. I go File, Export, Export with Adobe Media Encoder. And that's where I'd want to go in here and change the name of it, and I can see kind of what I've got in there. I could change it to test 3, whatever you want to do, and click save. Change some of these settings if I wanted to. Click OK, and it'll kick out it'll send it to Adobe Media Encoder, and you can see it's processing it. So these usually don't take that time, again, that long amount of time. It just depends on what your computer kind of is capable of. So that is basically walking you through all the things you could do to make your first sort of sound project, and using Adobe Audition should give you enough to go with. Again, there's a million tutorials you can go into that'll help you with special things, and really making all kinds of like detailed sort of like adjustments and changing file formats and stuff. But for now, this is a great place to get started. So enjoy it, make something great, and I hope you have a grand time.